Hello everyone. Today we are here to discuss one very important topic of plant bacteriology, and it is taxonomy of bacteria, especially plant pathogenic bacteria. You all know perhaps that taxonomy is a branch of science which deals with identification, nomenclature, and classification of organisms. So these three are the main pillars of taxonomy. Now, how bacteria are treated taxonomically? That means how bacteria are identified, how they are named, and how they are classified. So this will be the topic of discussion today. So let us start with identification. You know, identification of bacteria is not easy compared to fungi. Identification of fungi in many cases is possible to some extent through microscopic studies because fungi produce macrostructures, the conidia spores, which are characteristic type. They are mycelia, sometimes they are also of characteristic type. Now, identification of bacteria is not possible through microscopic studies alone, because they are hardly visible under compound microscope using 100x objective lens. We can only see the outline or the shape of the bacterial cell. Details cannot be seen with compound microscope. So identification relies on cultural characteristics, morphological characteristics, and so many other things, recently developed techniques. So once a bacterium is properly identified, then you can go for naming it using the international code and then go for classifying the bacterium in a specific taxonomic rank, giving it a family, an order, or class. So, how these bacteria are identified, let us see now. In the taxonomy of bacteria, morphological, serological, and metabolic characteristics. These are the phenotypic characteristics which have been used traditionally. Nutritional characteristics have been used traditionally. So these are all traditional means of identifying bacteria. But recently, not very recently, in fact, these have been there for quite a long time. The genetic characteristics, such as composition of DNA bases, especially the GC ratio, degree of homology of total DNA and or RNA of different bacteria, these are being used. These genotypic characteristics are specific, non-changeable, and therefore they are more reliable for classification, for taxonomic treatment. So the classification, nomenclature or identification based on genetic characteristics give you a long-term solution. DNA and RNA hybridization shows similarity in DNA or RNA sequences of the organisms that we are comparing. There are many genotypic methods, and one of them is ribotyping. It has been found to be rapid and specific method for classification and identification. In this technique, the DNA encoding 16S ribosomal RNA. 16S ribosomal RNA is the part of the smaller subunit of bacterial ribosome. So the DNA that encodes 16S ribosomal RNA is cut into fragments by restriction enzymes. Then the fragments are treated with probe and visualized in a gel. And in this way, a fingerprint of the bacteria can be obtained, and that fingerprint is specific to the bacterium under study. Then sequencing of 16S and 23S ribosomal RNA and comparing the sequences and fingerprinting of DNA using RFLP, REP-PCR, AFLP and RAPD procedures have become extremely useful in recent bacterial classification. We get much better understanding of bacterial relationships. It is not only characterizing the bacterial species but also finding out the evolutionary relationship among bacteria, to know the lineages, to know the ancestors from where bacteria originated and how they got evolved over a period of time. The techniques of 16S ribosomal RNA sequencing involves amplification by the PCR technique, polymerase chain reaction technique, of genes encoding 16S ribosomal RNA and subsequent sequencing. These genetic techniques, molecular techniques, are indispensable for identifying the non-cultivable bacteria, the non-cultivable prokaryotes. For the bacteria which are cultivable, they can be described well. Their culture can be obtained and purified, preserved, and deposited in designated labs or centers. But for those bacteria or prokaryotes like phytoplasma, fastidious prokaryotes, which are flame limited, they are not culturable. And for them, for identification of those non culturable prokaryotes, molecular techniques are the only means for their identification and characterization. And after identification and characterization at molecular level, those non-cultivable bacteria are given names. Though the names are not proper scientific names, but some names are given. So for those bacteria which are not culturable, molecular techniques are indispensable for their identification and classification. Say for example here, how this evolutionary relationship is obtained among bacteria, how the genetic study helps to know the evolutionary pattern of the bacteria. Say here in the left hand side we have 4 bacteria, bacterium A, B, C and D. What we do is we amplify the 16S ribosomal RNA gene from all these 4 bacteria separately using specific primer. So it is a PCR technique. Using specific primer, we amplify the gene which codes for 16S ribosomal RNA of each bacteria. Then we run the PCR product in the gel electrophoresis for getting the bands. So here from bacterium A we got a band, B, C, D. From all of these we got a band in a specific locus. Now these bands represent the sequence of DNA that codes for the 16S ribosomal RNA in each of these bacteria. Now what we do, we elute these bands and do sequencing using the conventional sequencing technique or the next generation sequencing technique. Say now from bacterium A, the band that we got, it has yielded 20 nucleotides long DNA sequence. From B also we got 20 nucleotide long DNA sequence. C and D also we got 20 nucleotide long DNA sequence. In fact, This is just an example. The length of gene actually is much more than what it is shown here. Just for demonstration, we want to see how these bacteria differ from each other genetically. Now, it is assumed that since all of them are bacteria and all of them have 70S type of ribosomes, and the smaller subunit 30S has same 16S ribosomal RNA gene, it is assumed. But what we see in reality after sequencing, that bacteria A, B, C, D, all of them have got 20 nucleotide long sequence specific to that 16S ribosomal RNA. Now, when we compare the sequences of A with B, we find that out of 20 nucleotides, 5 nucleotides are not matching. So, compared to A, B has 5 mismatches. So, these are the points where the mismatches occur. We got actually different nucleotide in this position, this, and these positions. So A and B, the bacterium A and bacterium B, out of 20 nucleotides, 5 nucleotides are mismatched. So the sequence of A with sequence of B, there is a mismatch at 5 locations. They are not same, they are not identical. Therefore, there is a difference between A and B as far as 16S ribosomal RNA gene is concerned. So, what is the difference? Out of 20 nucleotide, 5 are different. So, here 5 by 20 and it becomes 0.25. This 0.25 is the measure of genetic distance between A and B. Similarly, when we calculate genetic distance between A and C, it comes 0.3. A and D, the distance is 0.5. Between B and C, it is 0.35. So we are comparing the sequences in all possible combinations. A and B, A and C, A and D, B and C, B and D, C and D. And it is apparent and it is quite easy to understand that D is different from A, B and C with higher degree of genetic distance. So when we make a phylogenetic tree, D is quite distantly located, whereas A, B, C they are close by. Because A and B distance is 0.25, A and C distance is 0.3, B and C distance is 0.35, but A and D distance is 0.5, B and D distance 0.6, C and D 0.65. So here D is something which is distantly related with all the other 3 bacteria A, B and C. Whereas A, B, C among them the distance is minimum. So A, B, C formed a cluster and D is single. That means A, B, C, these 3 bacteria are genetically more related compared to D. That means genetically these 3 bacteria have similarities. This is just one rough and crude example. In real examples, in practical, there may be various kinds of relationships we would see. When many bacteria are taken together in an experiment, then we will find a new thing about their relationships. So this phylogenetic tree reveals the evolutionary relationship between A and D and B and C, A and C, A and D and so on. And we say that D is distantly related to other three bacteria, whereas A, B, C are closely related. That means A, B, C might have originated from one ancestor or they follow one lineage, whereas D is perhaps it has relation with some other ancestors that is not there in this study. So in order to make a complete picture about phylogeny, about the evolutionary relationship, one should take as many bacteria as possible. And this is what is being done presently. And for any new bacterium that we see, we go for measuring the genetic distance and we decide that which bacteria to be clubbed together, which bacteria to be kept in a different or distant taxonomic ranks. Then fingerprinting methods based on protein pattern, that means the amount of protein or the kinds of proteins that a bacterium has, we can determine the pattern of proteins at a specific growth stage. Fatty acid profile determined by gas chromatography, chemical composition of cell walls, or presence of some specific sugars, fats, fatty acids, amino acids, and proteins. These are also important for taxonomy. So we can have fingerprinting based on genetic characteristics. We can also have fingerprinting based on metabolites, based on other constituents of bacterial cell. Now, what is polyphasic taxonomy? So polyphasic taxonomy, it refers to inclusion of all possible methods, conventional as well as molecular methods for taxonomic purpose. So, to establish taxonomic identity of a new bacterial species, one must use as many approaches and methods, both molecular and conventional, as possible. That is what polyphasic taxonomy is. In contrast to monophasic taxonomy, where taxonomy is based on only one kind of data, maybe only molecular data or only conventional data. So even though molecular data gives you the accurate picture of the differences, still the molecular data should be complemented by, supplemented by conventional experimental data like biochemical characteristics, morphological characteristics. So that taxonomy becomes polyphasic taxonomy. Okay, so polyphasic taxonomy or polyphasic approach in the taxonomy is more welcome, more acceptable than monophasic taxonomy. So this is how we got to know about different approaches of identifying bacteria, conventional approaches, molecular approaches, and we also saw that how ribosomal RNA sequence data can help you to know the differences and know the lineages and phylogenetic relationships. Now, nomenclature is another pillar of taxonomy. Now, bacteriological nomenclature, it uses binomial system like other nomenclatures of fungi or plants or animals. So, bacterial nomenclature also uses code, bacteriological code that follows binomial system. I think you know that Linnaeus is the father of binomial nomenclature. Now, bacteria were earlier named following International Code of Botanical Nomenclature (ICBN). ICBN is uh, still used to name fungi, but bacterial nomenclature has been separated from ICBN, and we have got International Code of Nomenclature of Bacteria ICNB, which is now International Code of Nomenclature of Prokaryotes ICNP. This ICNP code is applied for naming all prokaryotes, including archaea. Archaea are also prokaryotes because they also do not have organized nucleus. So all prokaryotes are named following International Code of Nomenclature of Prokaryotes. So there are many codes, nomenclatural code. There are many rules. There are many standards. So the rules which are commonly used, they are like a bacterial name should have two epithets. One is genus, another is species. The genus name is italicized with the first letter being capital. The species name is also italicized and it is small letter, all in small letter. So it is binomial name. Now when the exact name has to be mentioned, the authors giving the first description of the bacterium and also the authors who made changes to the first name should be mentioned together with the year of publication. So this is another rule of nomenclature. So genus and species name, then the names of the authors to be given to make the name exactly scientific. Then when the genus, only the genus name is known, in that case the genus name following the rule should be written followed by sp dot or species. The most commonly used classification and nomenclature of bacteria can be found in Barghi's Manual of Determinative Bacteriology, which is now called as Barghi's Manual of Systematic Bacteriology. There are many rules of naming a bacterium. There are also standards to name the PV or pathovirus. So these are subspecific ranks. Pathovirus are the subspecific ranks. So all these rules and the standards can be mentioned in a different lecture. So, and since this course is a MSc course, too much of taxonomic information may not be interesting to you. So this nomenclatural thing will be dealt in a separate lecture. Now, one thing you should know that some bacteria have candidatus nomenclature. So, what the rule says about candidatus nomenclature? So, this must be known to you because you have already come across some names like candidatus phytoplasma, candidatus liberobacter. Okay, so there are some prokaryotes like phytoplasma and fastidious flame limited bacteria which are not culturable. Since they are not culturable, the conventional descriptions cannot be obtained from those organisms, for those organisms. And this is a requirement. According to the code, we should know the full description of the organism that we are naming. These descriptions cannot be obtained because we cannot culture the organisms like phytoplasma and fastidious prokaryotes. So this condition of the code cannot be fulfilled. Secondly, the type strain cannot be preserved or obtained or deposited. This is another condition. This condition says whatever organism one is naming, that organism type specimen should be maintained in pure form and should be deposited in an assigned laboratory or repository. So type strain cannot be obtained because they are not culturable. So we have two conditions here that cannot be fulfilled. Therefore, these organisms cannot be given scientific names. So a status or a category has been created called candidatus. It is a status or category, but it is not a taxonomic rank recognized by code. So the names here are given, but the names are not italicized. Only the word candidatus, which refers to a category or status, is italicized. And this word is preceded by the actual name. For example, candidatus phytoplasma asteris. So phytoplasma asteris is actually the name of the organism, but it is not italicized. So genus species name is there, but they are not italicized. Candidatus word is there before that name, and this candidatus word is italicized, and the whole name, whole designation is written between quotation marks. So that is the current status of naming organisms with candidatus status. Then there are many other things that we should know about bacterial names. There are many names which were used in the past, but they appear to be non-validly published because they did not have sufficient descriptions or the naming was not given following the codes. So all the invalid names which were there published before 1980 were rejected, and a list of valid names was published in the journal International Journal of Systematic and Evolutionary Microbiology on January 1, 1980. This is the date, January 1, 1980. This date is called as the starting point of bacterial nomenclature. Starting point of bacterial nomenclature. Now, all the names published before this date, which were not validly published because of lack of insufficient description or incorrect names, they were all rejected. So, to get a name published validly, that research paper, that article, that work should be published in the journal IJSEM, International Journal of Systematic and Evolutionary Microbiology. So, any person, any researcher working on a new species of bacterium, to get the name of the bacterium correct and approved, the research paper should be published in that journal. So that way, the bacterium gets its name approved. So this is another aspect of bacterial nomenclature. Now after nomenclature, we get classification. We have seen lots of changes in the classification of bacteria in recent time. Now one significant change in the bacterial classification is we got phylum as a taxonomic rank. Phylum was not there earlier. It was division. Gracilicutes, mollicutes, firmicutes. Those were the divisions. But now we do not have divisions. We have phylum, the highest taxonomic rank after kingdom. So we have three phyla: Proteobacteria, Firmicutes, Actinobacteria, as far as plant pathogenic bacteria are concerned. So bacterial classification is unified, encompassing all bacteria, but only the part concerned with the plant pathogenic ones have been presented here. So we have three phyla where we have plant pathogenic bacteria. Under phylum Proteobacteria, we have three classes: alpha Proteobacteria, beta Proteobacteria, and gamma Proteobacteria. Under the class alpha Proteobacteria, we have orders. Similarly, under class beta Proteobacteria, we have orders. We have order under class gamma Proteobacteria also. The class gamma Proteobacteria is the largest one. We have most of the plant pathogenic bacteria in this gamma Proteobacteria class. So you can see, you can have a look in the representative genera under each order. Agrobacterium, which is a crown gall pathogen, is in the order Rhizobiales. And the Candidatus liberobacter is also here in this order Rhizobiales. See, Agrobacterium is a crown gall pathogen, saprophytic, culturable in the lab. But Candidatus liberobacter is a phloem limited, citrus greening causing bacterium, fastidious bacterium. but it is here with Agrobacterium in the same order. Similarly, Barkholderia, Ralstonia, Acidoborax, they are all grouped under order Barkholderials. Xanthomonas and Xylella are here in the order Xanthomonadals. Pseudomonas genus is in the order Pseudomonadals, and Enterobacterials. This order contains many plant pathogenic bacteria like Arwinia, Pectobacterium, Serratia, and so on. Then in the phylum Firmicutes, we have class Mollicutes. It was said earlier also that molecute means soft skinned. The prokaryotes which do not have cell wall, like phytoplasma, spiroplasma. So they are in the class Mollicutes. Spiroplasma has got scientific name because these are culturable. Phytoplasma has not got scientific name because it is in the status Candidatus. Then we have Actinobacteria. So Actinobacteria have only one class and order Actinomycetals. This order contains all the gram-positive bacteria: Clavibacter, Cartobacterium, Streptomyces, Rathibacter, Rhodococcus, Nocardia, and so on. So here the phylum Proteobacteria contains all the gram-negative bacteria, whereas the phylum Firmicutes and Actinobacteria, they have all gram-positive plant pathogenic bacteria. So this is a glimpse of classification of plant pathogenic bacteria. Now let us see the diseases caused by plant pathogenic prokaryotes. The genus Pseudomonas is a very important genus, and the species Pseudomonas syringae with many pathovars are very important as plant pathogens. Pseudomonas syringae pathovar lacrimens causes angular leaf spot of cucumber. Then you have halo blight of bean, bacterial canker of stone fruits, and so many other diseases. Then we have here one disease called olive knot. Olive knot, here it is gall forming or tumor forming uh, pathogen, Pseudomonas savastonoi, pathovar savastonoi. We know that Agrobacterium causes crown gall disease. We got another example here, Pseudomonas species, which causes knot in the olive plant, olive tree. Ralstonia. Ralstonia solanacearum is one pathogen which causes bacterial wilt of many solanaceous plants and banana. Ralstonia CZZ, it causes bacterial wilt of clove tree. Ralstonia and Pseudomonas, they are not in the same order. You have seen it in the classification. Genus Xanthomonas. We have many important diseases here, internationally important diseases. Citrus canker, a disease of quarantine importance. Xanthomonas axonopodis pathovar citri. Then black rot of cabbage, black arm of cotton, bacterial blight of bean. So here basically you have to know the name of the pathogen and the disease caused. Then very importantly, bacterial spot of tomato and bacterial blight of rice. Bacterial blight of rice is caused by Xanthomonas oryzae, pathovar oryzae. Bacterial leaf streak of rice is caused by Xanthomonas oryzae, pathovar oryzae. Agrobacterium. With the change of classification or change of techniques to classify or identify, Agrobacterium is now scientifically more correct as Rhizobium. The Agrobacterium tumefaciens, it causes crown gall disease of stone fruits because Agrobacterium tumefaciens has a plasmid, TI plasmid or tumor inducing plasmid. This bacterium, Agrobacterium tumefaciens, transfers a part of its plasmid to the plant cell, and that part, which is known as tDNA, contains the genes for synthesis of cytokinin and auxin. These two hormones, growth hormones, make all the changes, physiological changes and hormonal disturbances in the plant system. In the affected part, we see crown gall formed. Agrobacterium rhizogenes, it causes hairy root of different hosts like apple. Arunia is one example of bacterium, gram-negative bacterium. We have mentioned earlier that Arunia has peritrichous flagella. Arunia is also facultatively anaerobic. Arunia disease is the one which was discovered first as a plant bacterial disease, like Arunia amylovora, which causes fire blight disease of stone fruits. Arunia carotovora, subspecies Atroseptica, it causes black leg of potato. So we have here two types of Arunia. One is soft rot causing, another is blight causing. So the soft rot causing bacteria are grouped under Arunia carotovora. We have carotovora group and another is amylovora group. Amylovora group, it does not produce pectinolytic enzymes. Carotovora group produces pectinolytic enzymes and causes soft rotting. Clavibacter is a gram-positive bacterium. It causes many important diseases like yellow ear rot of wheat, Clavibacter tritici, Clavibacter xylem causes ratoon stunting of sugarcane. Then bacterial ring rot of potato, bacterial canker of potato are caused by different species of Clavibacter. Streptomyces, another important gram-positive bacterium which is the inhabitant of soil. Streptomyces scabi, it causes scab disease of potato. Now streptomyces is one bacterium which is filamentous in nature, and streptomyces is one bacterium which is the source of most number of antibiotics. But we have only one example here which causes disease in the plant, common scab of potato. This disease is found more in the dry soil, and this disease can be controlled by irrigating the field. Streptomyces prefer to grow or multiply in the dry soil and in alkaline pH. So when the pH of the soil is reduced and the soil is irrigated, then streptomyces disease in potato can be controlled easily. Xylella is one xylem limited fastidious bacterium, Xylella fastidiosa. It has also the distinction of being completely sequenced among all plant pathogenic bacteria. This genus, Xylella, it causes many diseases like Pierce's disease of grapevine, Phoney disease of peach, citrus variegated chlorosis or CVC. Then Phytoplasma. Candidatus Phytoplasma asteris. It causes aster yellows. Candidatus Phytoplasma almi. It causes coconut lethal yellowing. Then we have rice yellow dwarf, tomato big bud, little leaf of eggplant, Sesamum phyllodes. These are some important diseases caused by phytoplasmas. Spiroplasma, we have a handful of examples here. Spiroplasma citri, it causes citrus, stubborn. Spiroplasma kunkeli, it causes corn stunt. So with these, we come to the end of this lecture. So in this lecture, we have discussed the taxonomy of bacteria, naming or nomenclature, identification, and classification, followed by examples of some diseases caused by bacteria. So that is the end of the lecture. If you have any query, you can write to me in the comment box. Thank you very much.